All right, welcome everyone to today's Lunch and Learn, Achieving Financial Wellness. We're so excited to have both Matt and Scott join us from Empower Retirement to talk all about achieving financial wellness. Before I kick it off to them, I just wanted to bring up two things. First, we will be recording these, so if you are unable to stay for the entire session or just want to refer back to it at another time, we will be sending out both the recording and a copy of the PowerPoint in a follow-up email within the next week or so. In addition, if you have any questions or comments, we will be addressing those at the end. But if you want to put them in the Q&A or chat box, we will try to scroll back through that at the very end to address as many as we can and as time allows for. So with that, welcome Matt and Scott. Thank you so much for being here. I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us. Some of you may know myself. My name is Matthew Pike. I'm one of the dedicated on-site representatives with Empower for Penn State Health. My peer Scott has joined here as well. Scott joined the team about a year or so ago, so may not be as familiar with Scott, but he and I worked together at a previous organization. So he's come on and has learned the retirement plans well, and he's a great resource. So you see his name if you schedule a meeting, you're in good hands there as well. So achieving financial wellness, this presentation I like to say is, it's not groundbreaking, but it helps kind of give a good benchmark or a good starting point if this is something that's on your mind. Things to focus on, things to think about to help put yourself in a better financial standing, as well as just work on a budget. So that's what we're going to step through today. There'll be some focus on, if you have credit card debt and trying to pay that down. And then, of course, being the retirement representatives, we're going to talk about how this can play into your retirement. So with that said, make sure I have clicking capabilities. There we go. Empower, we want to partner with you. I mean, we've been supporting Penn State Health since 2008, I believe. And we're the second largest provider in the US, continuing to grow, continuing to have more technology and resources available to employees like yourself through our website and things. So always be welcome to follow up with us. That's what we're here to partner with you. So financial wellness. Okay, we kind of break it down to 4 main steps for financial wellness. And then, like I said, we'll tie that then, to retirement savings. Why does it matter? Well, it matters differently for different people. Everyone's situation is different. I have meetings all the time where people want to give me, want me to give some, general information or kind of talk about, what should I do? Well, it depends, depending on your situation. So, and the same rules apply to financial wellness. So there are probably different areas for different people that you need to focus on, and that's what we'll kind of step through today. So again, always be welcome to reach out to Scott and I and utilize us as a resource, not just for retirement, but on some of these topics as well. In order to really get a good focus on your retirement goals, you kind of need to focus on your current financial situation, and we can assist with those things as well. So financial wellness, in general, supporting your current lifestyle, of course, saving for short-term goals, and the ability to then also focus on long-term goals and prioritizing those things depending on what you need the greatest focus on at the moment. Okay, bank account hit negative 1 month. Okay, well then maybe we need to focus on what are our current expenses to make sure we're meeting those expenses. Keeping an eye on, experience I dealt with is, I had to have my car serviced last month. I kind of made sure I aligned that to when, we're going to have some additional income in our bank account so I could meet those needs that pop up, like new rear brakes, so those types of things. And then also keeping an idea on, hey, let's make sure that we're building towards some long-term goals, whatever those are, even outside of retirement, like college savings for children, various other things like that. We all understand that money and your financial situation can be one of the biggest stresses on your life. And I understand that sometimes, hey, if everything's just kind of working, the bills are getting paid, you know, a lot of people would just rather say, hey, whatever's happening right now is working. But, you can have these things that pop up. And if you have made a very good effort to focus on kind of your full, income, and your expenses, it's just going to allow you to feel more comfortable that if something comes up, you don't have to dip into a credit card or you don't have to get stressed for a couple months. So I know people don't like to talk about money, don't want to worry about money, but hopefully this presentation gives you some things to foundationally use in order to make yourself feel more comfortable about your situation. So this is what Empower kind of, sets up as the 4 goals or 4 steps for financial wellness. Establish your goals, recognize your obstacles, and know that those obstacles can change and vary, and then execute your plan, and of course monitor your progress. So establishing goals, sometimes this is giving various the short-term and some of the long-term goals like I talked about previously, but maybe your goal right now is just to, hey, let's make sure we're in the black every month, so let's focus on what is our main goal now, and then what are some of our short-term goals, building up additional savings. Hey, we know that the car just hit 100,000 miles, we might need to replace that. Let's make sure we do that yearly vacation down to the beach. Let's just make sure we're putting some money away for the expenses. We go down to Wildwood, kids love the boardwalk, love to play the games, so we got to make sure we have a budget for those types of things. And then again, of course, the long-term goals, retirement should always be in your mind as one of those, but any other, goals that you focus on, I would say, 2 years are out, where that might be coming. Recognizing the obstacles, replacing a cell phone if it gets lost, or, wanting to upgrade. We all understand that, food prices, going to the grocery store, going to the gas pump, in the current light, those things have all been, probably higher and more strains on your bank account than they were, in previous years. So that's where kind of the, monitoring your progress and reevaluating kind of your budget, that needs to come into play when some of these goods and services may be increasing in price. So again, it's good to have a better holistic view and try to think of everything possible, that you may need to cover expense wise. Foreseen and unforeseen, we'll get there. So executing your plan. Okay, so here are some of the situations. Okay, maybe you want to spend less so that you can have more surplus, a higher savings. So if that's your main focus, everything's good, on the yearly, or should I say monthly and yearly expense wise. Okay, let's put a goal toward that. Okay, and follow through on that. Breaking even, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and things are working out, what are some things that maybe you can cut out? And you live in a life with all these different streaming services and subscriptions. You probably see the commercials all the time for various places that'll help you realize, what you're paying for that you're not using, all those types of things. And then of course, if you're spending more money than you're making, that's really got to be a focus for you. Again, kind of looking at some of the things that you're doing on an ongoing basis. How often are you eating out? Those types of things, and it might help you get a better, in a better situation. I have 2 boys. They're 6 and 10. I feel like I walk around this house turning lights off constantly. And I've noticed, when I started making a focus on that, yeah, the electric bill was, $20, $40 cheaper. So you don't realize how these little things can really help, you save, or at least lower your, monthly and quarterly and annual expenses and things. I have an old house. We wash the dishes. You're looking at the dishwasher right here. I trying to be conscientious of the amount of water I'm using when I'm doing those types of things. It's all these little things that really can help, going forward. So I mentioned, let's talk a little bit about credit card debt. Sometimes, and this can be personal debt as well. We're talking about debt that you have that has interest rates tied to it. It's a good way if you want to use this as kind of a, as an example or a way to maybe focus on, trying to pay down that debt. So, maybe you have various cards, and that's what this scenario is going to go through. Make sure you understand which cards, or what, debt has the highest interest rate expense, and then maybe focus more on that debt, and just do the minimums on the other ones, and then it'll help you sort of get the information or get the debt paid down quicker. So here's a bit of an example here. And so I gotta move the pictures around a little bit just so I can see a little bit better here. So you got basically $315 a month that you can apply toward your debt. Okay, so you got credit card with 4,000 at a 23% interest rate, credit card at 4,000 with a 10% interest rate, and one 3,000 with 8% interest rate. Okay, so what this is saying is, if you were to go ahead and apply, $200 to the big one, the one with the highest interest rate, and do the minimums there, after 26 months, you'll have, this 200 amount, to each one of the cards. And what that'll do, it'll allow you to pay that off quicker, then utilize that same pot of money, that same $315. You got to stay regimented, you got to stay balanced on that, and then apply that to the next one, and then so on and so forth, and apply that to the final one. And it's just talking about how, paid off after the amount of months, and so on and so forth. Which, what this is saying is, you'll basically be able to have everything paid off, in 3 years, 9 months, and you would have saved yourself just over $3,000 in interest. So if that's something of a focus for you, make sure you have a good grasp on what your interest rates are, make a focus on the larger interest rate, and then just sort of, go from there. This is a little, tip or trick, this 52-week savings challenge. Save $1 the first week. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I have a specific thing I want to, save for, I actually take the cash out and I put it in a certain area, under my mattress, so to say. Because if it's in your account, the nature, we use our cards, we swipe, we have stuff, to buy online. It's easy for that stuff to go. But like, if you want a tangible savings, actually have $1, and then have $2, and then have $3. And then once you get to what your goal is, then go ahead and deposit it for the expense. Sometimes it's better that way, that if you're putting it, you're kind of remembering, this is intended for some expense, or I'm doing this to try to help, build up our savings. Because if it's in your savings account, very easily could be transferred to your checking if something comes up in those things. So play around with how this would work, but it's basically giving you an idea. If you can kind of go on this incremental path, you can get to your, get just under $1,400 saved in 52 weeks. So, and as I said, monitoring your progress, that's kind of the final step. And so stay on top of things, understand what your monthly ins and outs are. A lot of people understand what their consistent monthly expenses are on average, for gas or electric, oil, whatever it is, your monthly mortgage, rent, whatever it is. But a lot of people don't look at, those miscellaneous expenses. How much am I spending at the grocery store? How much am I spending, at the gas pump? How much am I spending for, entertainment, going out to eat, those types of things. So having a better focus on what that budget is just going to help you better monitor, your whole overall situation. Just checking the clock and taking a little drink here. And the reason you monitor these things is, of course, life happens. There are unexpected things that you want to make sure you have some wiggle room, to cover. Like I said it earlier, I timed my service, so that if there was, a need of maintenance on my car, that could be covered, without needing to put it on a credit card, because here's the situation. If you have the funds available, in an emergency fund or in your savings account, you can cover that unforeseen expense. But if you don't, and you put it on a credit card, for example, here, $1,200 car repair, put that on the credit card, with 18% interest over 5 years, that's going to turn into 1,800 and an additional $620 that you're going to have to pay to the credit card company that's coming out of your pocket. So just it's trying to give you kind of tangible examples of how important it is to plan and to try to have sufficient savings on hand. And we generally go over this, if someone asks in a meeting, general rule of thumb for savings accounts is, 3 to 6 months worth of salary. So, depending on your, if you're a single income, a dual income, those are things to have because, something occurs, you have to go on leave, you decide to leave a job and maybe you don't have one lined up, those are things that you want to make sure you have so that you don't put yourself into, a worse or bad situation. All right. So now we're getting to retirement. So if you have viewed the website for where you can view your Penn State Health 401k, and you've seen this little colorful chart on the homepage that has this circle with percent of goal. Don't get too hung up on what that percent is, okay? Because it may not be, specific to your needs, okay? But basically, most people step into retirement needing anywhere from 70 to 90% of what they currently live off of in order to live comfortably in retirement, okay? Because think about it, if you're retired, you're not commuting to work, you're going to have Social Security as a stream of income, maybe some expenses like a mortgage or various other expenses are less. So the website, when you log in, it has a default goal of 75% right in the middle. So if you're not quite sure what to shoot for, the website is saying, hey, why don't you shoot for 75% of what your current salary is? And then what we do is we break that down to what that 75% of your current salary is in relation to what you might need per month for every month in retirement. From age 65 is the default, that's the average retirement age. And then the website homepage kind of estimates that out until approximately age 88, give or take a couple of years. So if you keep doing what you're doing based on the savings that you're doing, or contributions, I should say, that you're doing, how much you have saved, assuming a certain rate of return, if you keep doing what you're doing, if you retire at 65 and you want this money to last you until approximately age 88, give or take a couple years, and then assuming a certain estimate for Social Security, the big number that you see is what we're saying you're on track, to potentially live off of per month in retirement. It's just to try to get you in the ballpark on the dartboard, for lack of better terms. So what I tell individuals, if you look at that large number, which is, a monthly retirement goal, focus that to what you're currently bringing home per month to meet your monthly expenses. And if those if those dollar amounts are fairly close and aligned, then you might be on a good path, okay? If there's, a big gap between them, then that might, lend you to need to do some additional retirement savings, some additional contributions to your plan. It's good to understand kind of all the areas of where, retirement income can come from. I mentioned Social Security. So, at any point you can go on and create a username and password on the Social Security website, ssa.gov. Create a username password just like any other secure site. And it'll give you what your current estimate is, based on the various ages of when you can start collecting Social Security. So the earliest you can start collecting is age 62. full Social Security, or what we refer to as full benefit age for Social Security, is age 67 for anyone born after 1960. Anyone before that, it's 66 and various couple months, depending on when in the late 50s you may have been born. And basically, Social Security goes up by 8% a year every year you don't take it until age 70. Age 70 is the highest benefit that you can collect. You never wait any longer than age 70. But just, we like to talk through Social Security during our meetings, so I wanted to make a little mention of that. Pension plans and retirement plans. Pensions are kind of a dying breed in the marketplace anymore. But getting a good grasp on, hey, oh yeah, I worked at that one location for 3 years, and do I have retirement? Those questions come up all the time. So trying to keep a good, understanding and a good, good knowledge of, where your retirement assets are, and that is something that we assist with during our meetings. We can help with consolidating. It sometimes doesn't make sense. We talk through all the pros and cons and things of that nature. So income from assets, if you're planning to downsize, maybe the closer you're getting to retirement, you get an idea of what your house value is, what you may be looking at. And if you are going to downsize, how much you may clear related to that, that then you can, put in your savings, or you can invest in order to help, your money last you longer in retirement. Income from earnings, what that means is just, the money as it sits in your retirement accounts, it's going to grow, it's going to compound and things. So having a better understanding of, kind of how your balance continues to grow year over year. And then there may be other, facets that come into play. Don't really, I wouldn't say, budget on these things, but, maybe you're one of these individuals, yeah, man, I'm going to retire, but I can't sit still. Like, I got to do something. So maybe you're going to have part-time income in retirement, that's going to help. And budgeting for that and understanding, okay, I can allocate that toward this expense, or, inheritance, things of that nature. Get a better idea of, those situations. So it's just good to kind of think about, okay, where all can I be getting my money? Because these things are going to need to be basically your paycheck in retirement. My biggest moniker that I say in most of my meetings is your biggest asset with retirement is time. Okay. So the longer the money is in the account, the longer it has a chance to grow and compound, in that relation. That's what this, slide is trying to, emphasize. $25 now could be, actually the equivalent of about $180 additionally in retirement, down on the low part. This is assuming that the money's been in there for 30 years, at a 6% annual rate of return, which is common, so again, it's just to give you an idea, and you can see that on the website as well. If you log in to view your account, if you slide the contribution slider bar, you will see the numbers and the percent of goal adjust. The further away you are from the retirement age, those numbers are going to adjust a lot more than the closer you are to retirement. People don't always realize that. So if I'm telling someone to increase their contribution, their goal is going to shift very greatly if they're in their early 30s. But if someone's, wanting to do that and they're in their late 50s, early 60s, the slider bar, if you increase your contributions, is not going to move the needle as much. Because think about it, extrapolate, hey, I'm going to put this additional money in my account, for, let's say, the next 5 years until I plan to retire. Well, how much does that really impact, the monthly amount you're going to receive, over 15, 20, 25, 30 years in retirement? So again, that's what this slide is trying to give you an idea, related to how the money can grow the longer it's been in the account. Okay. And you saw there in the previous slide, $25, it doesn't mean you got to, put a whole stock, a bunch of money into your account, 1%, 2% increase, year over year. The website has a capability of, setting an automatic annual increase where it goes up by 1% a year, and you can set what month you want that increase to go into. A little out of sight, out of mind. A lot of individuals will, if when your yearly if you're going to have a merit increase or cost of living adjustment and things are okay, with your current monthly expenses, maybe you set that 1% increase to occur, when that payment's going to be made. And then you don't even realize it. You're getting a little bit, in your take home, and you're getting a little bit more into your retirement. So, it's just the little things that can really be impactful, depending on when you're doing them. I kind of joke around, especially for, older individuals where I said, maybe they think they want to increase their contributions, but I show them it doesn't make as much of an impact. You won't be eating SpaghettiOs and peanut butter and jellies, for the last 4 years of your working career because you're throwing a ton of money in your retirement account. Sometimes that money can be better suited, you know, ironing out some expenses inside your house, replacing appliances, those types of things. That's all preparation for retirement, rather than putting it into your retirement account. These are scenarios we talk through. Like I mentioned before, everyone's situation is different related to financial wellness and retirement goals. So we can walk through whatever your situation is and give some direction and advice, toward what we think maybe makes the most sense for you. So some tools on the actual Empower website, when you log in, that not a lot of people are familiar with, but they are great tools to help kind of reinforce this, budgeting and, setting good financial wellness goals. This My Financial Path, it allows you to view a lot of things. There's information about student loan debt on there, budgeting worksheets where you can print something off and actually write in your expenses if you're, a pencil and paper type person. So it's a really good tool that you can access after you log into the website that can help you with that. Also, the website itself. So if anyone's logged in, over the past, handful of months, there has been an enhancement to the Empower website. You may notice when you log in, there'll be an area that underneath the plans says link accounts. What that means is if you want to, completely voluntary, but if you want to, you can link your various types of accounts, savings accounts, checking accounts, credit cards, mortgage. If you want to use the website as sort of your holistic financial wellness tool where you don't have to go everywhere, if you link the accounts, the balances will update in real time on a daily basis. And then it'll start giving you what your asset versus liability, debt to income ratio basically situation is. And then once more data from those different accounts sort of feed into the website, you'll get various different widgets that you'll have access to, like a cash flow tool, where it'll show you, okay, this month you were in the red, or this month you were in the black. Oh, you were in the black. Okay, well, after a couple months, you notice, hey, we have a surplus of about $300 a month based on our current monthly expenses. Now I feel more comfortable knowing that I can increase my contribution by another 2%, 3%. So I just want you to realize that there are a lot more tools, and things that you can now use on the website if you want to do so, where you don't have to go to like a mint.com or some other, financial calculator website. Like that's all available to you through your Penn State Health Empower retirement account. So, and there's the website right there, retire.pennstatehealth.org. Our contact information is here. If you're wanting to get in contact with Scott or I, by phone, call the 1878 extension. We monitor that. If you call, leave a voicemail. But we also have a phone tree set up on that phone number, just so you're aware. So it'll mention, hey, if you want to take a loan or inquire about taking a loan, you're having website issues, all that's better suited for a home office, and it'll automatically transfer you there. And that's that 1866 number. But it says, hey, you got a question for Matt or Scott, or you you want to schedule a meeting, it's going to tell you where to go online to schedule a meeting. And even if it's just a quick question and email, um, that's our email alias for Penn State Health. That's monitored by a representative in HR. Sometimes they address some of those questions. Ones they're not comfortable with, they forward over to us. That's just a way that, if I'm out of the office or Scott's out of the office, this is sort of the centralized way to make sure, you're getting in contact with us. And again, customer service is there. They're our backup. If you have questions that are more transaction based, hey, I was trying to increase my contributions online. I'm getting an error message. Give them a call. They can do it most of the time right over the phone. Okay. Over those types of things. I want to change my investments. Okay. If you know what you want to do, you can call them and they can execute it for you. If you don't feel comfortable doing it on the website, if you want to review your investments, definitely come and speak with Scott and I. We are licensed advisors. We can have some of those conversations with you. We have a nice new tool that we like to utilize during our meetings that gives, I would say, a little bit more of a robust picture of your situation than the general home page website. So we like having those conversations. We call them account reviews. It's just a more robust review of your situation and kind of what path you are on. But with that, I've gone through all my content here. I see 2 questions in the Q&A. So Angela, if anything else comes in, feel free to chime in here, but I'll quickly read off a couple of a couple of questions that came in here. You're assuming a lot for retirement, Social Security growth contributions, but as we live through this massively inflationary time, I'm curious, does the target of 75% also cover assumed inflation and cost of living for the approximate 20 to 30 years for retirement? That's a very good question. Yes, the website is inflation adjusted. Okay. Average inflation is usually around 3%. Okay. And Empower does monitor the inflation rate that we are sort of programming into the website. So that has been adjusted, recently because of the current inflationary times. And again, that 75% is just a general goal. And what I said, I don't tell a lot of people to really focus on the percent of goal. And maybe that 75% is arbitrary. And you can adjust that to 80 to 90%. See what the number is, what that monthly estimate is, and then that can give you a better sense of where you stand with kind of your current monthly budget. But a question like that, as I mentioned about the tool that we have at our access, that is something where if you, feel very strong about inflation and that it's going to continue to be in that, we can program in, a certain inflation rate to try to make sure that savings will be able to keep up with that. So again, that would be a perfect reason to come schedule an individual meeting with Scott and I. We can utilize that tool. And we can sort of, show and tailor things to your specific situation. How does one increase the amount being contributed to retirement from their paycheck? Great question. So you would be able to do that on the website. If you log in, I will just kind of give probably the easiest and general way. This is kind of how you would do it through the Empower app. I'll make a plug for the app. If you're on your phone, you'd rather just have access to go through the app. So if you log in, basically you select the name of the plan, where you contribute your money. So if you see, go to the plan where you have a balance. If you click on the name of that plan, it can take you sort of inside the plan where you see a lot of different options. One of them says My Contributions. If you click on the name of the plan, sometimes it asks you for another link and it says Contributions. And then it's going to just take you to an area where you can edit or add contributions. It'll show you what you're concurrently contributing. And then you can select a dollar amount or a percent, and then slide the slider bar or type in the dollar amount you want, hit continue, and then proceed the steps from there. And then you'll be able to increase that. At the bottom, once you follow the steps, you'll get a confirm and continue button. Once you press that, as long as you see a confirmation number and a checkbox, that will give you the confirmation that that change has been submitted to payroll. Usually updates in 1 to 2 paychecks, depending on the timing of when you make the change. Good. More questions are coming in here. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. I know I kind of went through that content quickly, which I wanted to open it up for this Q&A. So I appreciate all the questions here. If we have new faculty that need to meet with you, should we be contacting you directly, or can their admin set this meeting up on their behalf? Generally, how we've done this in the past is the administrators do schedule the meetings with us. So there is on the website, if you log on to the homepage, if you go to the top right, you'll see contact us, and then I'll take you to a page that links to our online scheduling tool. We recommend you go through the online scheduling tool to schedule those meetings. Now, I know there are administrators that want to book, months in advance. There's a lot of new faculty that come on in July. We usually program our meeting availability, just because we have lives and we have various things that come up from month to month. We usually program it out 60 days. Okay, so if you're going to a date or trying to schedule a meeting for a date that's further than 60 days out, reach out to us directly. We can make an exception for those types of situations, but I generally recommend going to that online scheduler and setting up meetings in that way, because we program all of our availability. When someone schedules a meeting with us, it takes away that availability, so it shows you in real time what dates and what times we're available to meet. And again, you access that on the homepage of the retire.pennstatehealth.org website. Once you go to the homepage, just on the top right, it says contact us. You'll see pictures of Scott and I, and there'll be a link right below that to schedule a meeting. All right. For clarity, I may have missed it. Does PSH only match up to 5%? So the contribution from Penn State Health, yes, is a 5% contribution. And since most employees have an automatic or required 5% contribution, that's why Penn State Health implements that for most employees, so that there's no chance that you don't receive the full employer match. So yeah, even if you were to increase your voluntary contributions, to 2 additional percent on top of the required 5, so maybe you're doing 7% overall, Penn State Health's contribution always stays at 5%. Love it. More and more questions wrapping in. Can you address whether it's generally better to pay extra on a mortgage beyond the minimum payment, or to put that extra money or that extra into another investment option? I know it's different for everyone, but is there a general recommendation which option will typically yield a better return, paying off early or making minimum payments and investing the extra in another option? It's a good question, and you are correct. Everyone's situation is different. You kind of want to look at it on what your focus is. I would say for maybe individuals who are later in their working career and getting closer to retirement, you can't necessarily assume, a certain growth rate when you're looking at investing on a shorter term. So maybe the contributions you're making for the last 5 years to your retirement account, you can't assume that that money is going to grow as sufficiently, as it did maybe 20 years ago. So maybe that would be the focus then. The other idea, just like we looked at debt related to credit card, is look at the interest rate. Okay, so if you're locked into a, what it was, before, if you're locked into a 3.5% interest rate on your mortgage, Generally speaking, if you're of, I'd say in the 30 to 40 to 50 range, the average return, don't hold me, this is just average historical return in a retirement account is usually anywhere from 6 to 7 to 8% per year. So, that is maybe where you're going to get a better yield. Again, maybe the longer the money is in the account. So think of it kind of in those terms related to, the interest rate that you have on the mortgage, your overall situation, as well as kind of the length of time you have until retirement. Do you do Zoom individual meetings? I'm 100% remote. Yes. So we utilize Empower, we utilize the application WebEx for our virtual meetings. But yes, when you go to the online scheduler that I mentioned, you go on the website, click contact us. That's before you log in. You don't log in. Contact us. You'll see the link for the online scheduler. And then after you click a couple buttons, you'll see the option is virtual or in person. Okay, so we do in-person meetings at the moment in our office, which is located at 100 Crystal A Drive. Scott and I kind of split time in the office right now, but I will say that in the current state, weather having something to do with it, 80 to 85% of our meetings are virtual, sometimes easier for remote employees and other individuals who live or work at various other locations outside of Hershey. It's a perfect way to get in touch with us. So yes, definitely do virtual meetings. After I retire, can I consolidate my HMC retirement account with my Ameriprise account so everything is in one place? Yes. So when you separate from Penn State Health, so when I say separate, I mean, after you get your final paycheck from Penn State Health, they, within a week or two, give us your official final date. When we get that date on file in our Empower systems, that sort of unlocks the account to do with the funds whatever you wish. You can leave them in there in the Penn State Health account as long as you want. You don't have to access them at all until RMD age. RMDs are required minimum distributions. The Secure 2.0 Act, if you heard about that, that's increased RMD age to 73. So what that means is if you hit age 73, you're mandated to withdraw a certain minimum amount from any account you're not taking money from. We would calculate that for you. We would notify that for you. So that's the only mandate of what you have to do. Your options are to definitely roll over to a personal account that you may have. If you're leaving Penn State Health and go into a new employer, you can roll that money over into your new employer's set of retirement plans. Or ultimately, there's a lot of people that just leave the money in the account and then just set up monthly withdrawals. And you don't have to, put yourself in or what I'm saying is if you set up a monthly payment amount, that can be adjusted, that can be stopped, that can be restarted again. So there is a lot of flexibility with keeping the money in the account and accessing it later or whenever you want. But yes, consolidation and transferring the assets, to bring things together, you have that capability. A part of retirement is simplifying your life, when you step into retirement. So if that's a place where you feel most comfortable, you can definitely transition those assets. Does Empower offer a school consolidation loan program? They do not officially at the moment, but like I mentioned, that My Financial Path area of the website gives a lot of good information about debt consolidation solutions, things to focus on, areas to research related to debt forgiveness or various other things. So I would direct you to that area of the website, My Financial Path, and you can reach out to us if for some reason you can't find that location. That would be after you log in. But also, I believe on the homepage, there are links for some other resources and things. So you should be able to find it there as well. Why do I need my husband's approval to make withdrawal from my retirement account? Common question. So certain transactions and the certain plans are built in with what's called a spousal consent waiver. It really is not a big applicable thing any longer, but it was a long-standing rule back in the day to try to help make sure that, if there was one spouse working and there was one spouse running the home, that the spouse working couldn't move their money somewhere else unbeknownst to the non-working spouse. So it's kind of an old rule that are built into some of these retirement plans, which requires that sort of notarization and things. Depending on the transaction, depending on the form you have, it may make it seem like you need that, but you may not. That's something that you can double check with customer service. They should be able to clarify, do I really need this or not? I'm just sort of speaking in general terms related to that question. Do you recommend after you retire and receive your Social Security monthly check, the percentage of tax be taken out? That's everyone's, that's up to everyone's specific situation. Think about it in the way that if you're getting this Social Security payment, but you're also taking a payment from your retirement account, maybe you set up a higher deduction on your 401k monthly payment that you're receiving and don't necessarily do it on Social Security. When you are of Medicare age collecting Social Security, they're going to want to deduct your Medicare Part B premium from your Social Security payment. So again, depending on budgetary situation, what your overall income is going to be, you can make that decision, specific to you. If you want to be like, hey, I'm not sure. I mean, same thing applied to my parents when they retired. They withheld more related to taxes, with the various payments they were receiving, just so they didn't get caught in a situation where they owed a bunch of money. So if you're one of these that would rather err on the side of caution, I'd say go ahead and do so. But there is not a mandate. Sometimes you can balance out, hey, I'm gonna have a little bit more deducted from this payment, so I don't have to deduct as much from this payment. You kind of may have to just work through that. Just keeping an eye on the time. I'm glad this opened up a big Q&A. I understand that Secure Act 2.0 allows for employer 401k match contributions to be directed to Roth. Will Penn State Health be allowing this option? Good question. You are accurate that this is an optional adoption for retirement plans. Doesn't go into play until potentially next year. So I want to give you the timing on that. Nothing would be applied for this year. We've had no direct conversations with Penn State Health on their intentions of potentially doing that. Am I saying no? I'm not. It could be something that happens down the road, but I want you to know it is an optional adoption that each organization can or cannot make for their retirement plan. So I just keep your eyes open to the website. Communications will go out if that is something that may be worked on again a year from now to be implemented into the plan. Very good question. Is there a time frame once you decide to retire from PSH that you need to notify your manager? How is employer notified? I won't address the notifying your manager piece. That's more of a Penn State Health HR question. Maybe reach out to the HR service center that you have access to. Their extension is 8440 and ask that question. But how we're notified, as I said a little bit earlier, if you missed it, basically you get your final paycheck from Penn State Health. That next week, Penn State Health basically, crosses the T's and dots the I's on your compensation, gets, if you're owed any PTO payout, they get that all set up and ready to go. And generally when they've checked all those boxes across the compensation way, that is when they send us your official final date. So you don't need to notify Empower. That occurs automatically by Penn State Health. Like I said, usually a week or two after you get your final official paycheck. Current rate of return says minus 5.41. How do you feel about the current market? Should we hold off increasing investments? This would be something I want to definitely take a look at on an individual basis, because depending on the length of time you've been with the organization, when you started the plan, related to the time frame that percentage is taking, we would want to give you some commentary related to that. Current market setup, I mean, I'm taking some of this information from, we have a weekly commentary call that, an economist, Adam Power, gives a little bit of an outlook. A lot of times it's very week by week basis, but, we experienced the volatility of last year. What I tell a lot of individuals is, the climb that we saw toward the end of 2021 peaked well above, normal long-term historical averages. Okay. So, it was bound that some things were going to have to occur, with inflation increasing, the Fed increasing rates to try to bring down inflation. There's just a lot of, ups and downs and things that kind of talk toward positives, things that kind of talk toward the negatives of the economy. It's, it was described as, in the current state, this long, bumpy road to nowhere. And you'll notice, based on how the stock market's been doing this year, it's kind of been steady, from kind of the volatility and then a little bit of an uptick we saw toward the end of last year. So I wouldn't necessarily say hold off on increasing investments, meaning increasing contributions, but that also depends on how much time you have until retirement. Because if you're younger, hey, you want the market to be down every Friday you get paid, because that dollar amount you're putting into your account is buying whatever investment at a cheaper price. So then when it, the eventuality of it going up over a longer term period of time, that's going to actually be a benefit to you. Now, if you're closer to retirement and you say, hey, Matt, I kind of said this scenario earlier, want to make sure, I'm a little bit safer. I don't want to put this money in and then not have it, when I step into retirement. Okay, maybe you don't increase your contributions and you utilize that money toward, like I said, other various things in your life or in your house that's going to help you feel more comfortable stepping into retirement. This is like, I love it. This is like rapid fire. I'm giving like little snippets of all these different conversations I've had, in all of my meetings over the past 7 years. I was unable to get in here on time. Will there be a recording? Yes. Angela confirmed that earlier. So I believe you'll be receiving a notification that the recording has been posted and you can access that. Numbers are going down. That's it on the questions, at least. If you have more than one retirement, is the process difficult to blend into one retirement company? In my opinion, no, because if you're reaching out to Scott and I, because we help employees with rollovers on a daily basis. If you're navigating it yourself, you're going to be asked questions that you're maybe not too sure how to answer. Just reach out to us. We can help with your consolidating efforts, depending on where the money is. We also utilize an internal team at Empower that all they do on a daily basis is do rollovers. So if you have a prior Empower account, meaning, the previous place you worked, they also used Empower, we're going to send you to the internal team, because there'll be no paperwork involved. They basically just wire the money from your old plan to your new plan, all in-house with Empower. But usually if you do want to schedule a meeting with us to help with a rollover, make sure you have a copy of your most recent statement from that prior account. Okay, because then we can look at that. We'll see who the provider is. Generally we have experience working with most retirement providers, so we can give you a heads up like, hey, if it's Fidelity, it's a very easy call. Here are the little pieces of information you need to execute that call. Okay, if it's Lincoln Financial, generally they generate a form. We can help you fill out that form, but the form's very straightforward. Like, we can give you that sort of background, before you would, start the rollover so that you feel more comfortable. And like I said, you can partner with us through that process. What is the difference between 401k and 403b at the time of distribution? Good question. On the surface, the Penn State Health 401k and the Penn State Health 403b, that's the one that's called the tax sheltered annuity program. Don't get hung up on the name. It's just an old terminology for 403b. On the surface, they're the exact same plans, meaning you access them the same way, you contribute to them the same way, and then down the road, you can also distribute from them the same way. To one of the previous questions related to spousal consent waiver, the 403b definitely has the added rule, and that's built into most that's historically built into most 403bs. That's really the only difference between the 401k and the 403b when it comes to distribution time, is if you do set up a rollover or set up a monthly payment, there'll definitely be a spousal consent requirement to be notarized for the 403b. Down the home stretch here. Got 3 minutes. I'm going to go rapid fire here. What does Empower charge if you retire to maintain an individual's money? Nothing. That's a good question. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. The Penn State Health plans have a quarterly $16 quarterly fee that applies to all employees, and no additional fees come into play, after you retire. So you're welcome to keep the money in the account as long as you want. There'll be no additional fees charged. Do you have any thoughts on reverse mortgages as people get closer to retirement age? To be honest with you, I do not. I kind of understand how a reverse mortgage works, but I'll be honest with you, it kind of falls out of my jurisdiction. So sorry, I can't give any additional commentary specific to that. Do your research, and if you have specific questions, we're always welcome to bounce ideas off of, or bounce ideas off of us. We'll answer whatever we feel most comfortable with. My son started here 2 years ago and is in his 20s. Is it best for him to contribute a dollar amount per pay or 1% each year per pay? Generally, I say percent, because if their salary is going to increase, or if they work an extra set of hours, that's going to help with that additional money also coming into the retirement account. So usually a percent is the way to go. But if you have a really stringent budget, sometimes people want to set a dollar amount so they know that that amount is going in and it's not going to adjust, maybe some extra money coming back to them. Are you required to take a distribution at 73 from Roth account? That is a new change, and that's being implemented next year. So if your money is still within an employer-sponsored plan, talking employer-sponsored plan, and you have Roth money in that account, in the past, the RMD payments used to be calculated on a what we call pro rata basis, so proportionately from all the different sources of money that fed the account. So there could have been that possibility in the past. The Secure 2.0 has made it set up, and that's why Empower and various organizations have to build new technology to ensure that if you have Roth money in your 401k or your 403b and you turn 73 and you are required to do a distribution for your RMD, that the Roth money is not touched. Okay. Very good question. And follow up with us if you have, something you'd like to talk through. I got 2 more questions for those that want to hang on. Got 1 more minute here. How soon should I meet with you when planning for actual retirement? 6 months out, 2 months out? Honestly, it depends on what you need assistance on. Like if you already looked into medical expenses and Medicare and what those expenses may entail. If you've already looked into Social Security and you got a good understanding of that, like if you have a better understanding on what your intentions are stepping into retirement, and you really just want us to button things up and let you know what you have to do with your Penn State Health plans, then yeah, maybe 6 months out is fine. But if you need a little bit of a better, hey, let's look at this big picture need some resources or references of where to access, hey, I need to look into pre-65 medical coverage, just for example, it might be better for us to meet, a couple years before or a year before. So it gives you time to kind of, get your ducks in a row, so to say. But you can meet with us whenever. Last question. If you decide to roll over your full retirement distribution into your own private account, is it taxed prior to the distribution? No. If it is a rollover, meaning the money is just going from one account to another account, there is no taxation. Now, you receive a tax form. It's referred to as a 1099-R, R for rollover. Just means you got to file it with your taxes, but it is not a taxable consequence. Now, if you're transferring it and there's some difference in taxation from one account to another, maybe something comes into play there. But generally speaking, if you got pre-tax money or before tax money in your 401k, you're rolling it over to a new 401k, 403b, a personal traditional IRA, or you got Roth money in your 401k or 403b, and you're rolling it into a Roth IRA, no tax consequence comes into play there. Got it. 2 minutes over, but hey, I love the questions. Thank you everyone for answering those questions. You probably saved us, a bunch of meetings. So it allows the time for everyone else who needs to schedule some time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Matt. That was an excellent presentation. And thank you everyone for your questions. I'm glad we were able to get through them. And as Matt said, he gave you the email address. If you need to reach out to them with additional questions, please feel free to do so. I will be following up with the recording of the PowerPoint along with the PowerPoint slides. So expect that in your mailboxes or email inboxes in about a week. I just wanted to give you a heads up that on April 11th, we will be doing a container gardening session with Penn State Extension. And then on May 16th, we will be having a session on building better mental health. So stay tuned for promotions regarding that. But again, thank you, Matt and Scott, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you all have a wonderful day.